Here's Carolyn Jarvis.
Good evening and welcome to 16 by 9. It was one of the worst mass shootings in modern U.S. history. A heavily armed killer stormed through Sandy Hook Elementary 14 months ago, leaving more than 24 dead. The attack not only renewed the gun control debate, it also led some to ask if there's more first responders can do to save lives, and if there's more you can do if you're the one caught in the middle. Robin Stickley has the story.
This is just a drill.
Right hand up. I want you to engage 3 times.
Training practice. To stop a gunman.
Officer, please keep your hands where I can see it. Don't move. Don't move.
We're good, Rob.
Punch it out. Punch it. Punch it. Come on.
It's grueling.
Kick him up. Up. Up.
And it's intense.
Go.
Since 2000, there have been more than 120 active shooter events in the United States. That makes it high stakes for officers at this training program in Texas.
Police, stand up. Don't move. Rob, you all right? Good. Good. You up? Yeah, good. Yeah, breathe over.
Far from the chaos of the firing range in Arlington, Virginia, there's an unspoken kinship between Christina Anderson and the officers learning to keep the public safe. Active shooter training, in part, wouldn't exist if it weren't for people like Christina. She survived a mass shooting. Her story has helped law enforcement improve its tactics. It was April 2007, and Christina was rushing to class.
I was late getting there. It's funny, we almost did really skip and to how different life would have been. We got in, Madame gave us that same generic, we're late. She gave us our paper, sat us in the same exact seats that we were always in. My teacher went to the door. She opened it and she peered outside. I think she saw him, but she didn't say anything. She immediately came back and she closed the door, and you could see the look of panic on her face, and she said, call 911.
The gunman shot Christina's teacher. Then, methodically, without hesitation, he fired rapidly at students, going row by row.
I think he was pretty solemn, composed. He was firing so quickly, and each shot corresponded with a sharp cry. I know that other people just took cover in whatever ways they could. Some people huddled towards the back of the room. In reality, many were just shot in their desks. It felt like it was getting closer and closer to me. I remember telling myself, like, brace yourself, your turn is gonna come. Your brain actually goes into this like recovery mode of, what am I gonna do? I knew to play dead. I really tried to just stop the breathing and just, I don't remember if I prayed honestly, but I know I was telling myself things of like, just hold on, it's almost over, you know, don't move. Getting shot is just very shocking, and adrenaline starts, you know, rushing. I remember cell phones kind of on and off in the background, but the girl next to me, Mary, I remember her coughing because it was like a choking cough, and it was so unnatural. It just caught me as a surprise, as a what could be happening to induce this kind of this cough, and then it stopped. Yeah.
They tend to be very systematic, very calm, very cool, not panicked.
Pete Blair is a leading expert in mass shootings. He says the Virginia Tech gunman stalked his victims before he started to shoot.
He actually didn't start firing right away. He walked up and down the hallway that he attacked in Norris Hall a couple times, looking in the classrooms to see which classrooms were occupied.
The gunman attacked 5 different rooms. The number of people shot and killed in each room changed drastically depending on how they responded. The students in room 207 took action.
They closed the door. There weren't any locks on the doors that they could utilize, so they put their feet and their hands on the doors to hold the door closed and kept their bodies out of the way. The shooter came back to the room, tried to get in the door, couldn't get in, fired through the door, didn't hit them, and then moved along. And you've got to think in the shooter's point of view, they know law enforcement is coming. He doesn't have all day, so he moves along to another target.
In Christina's classroom, the door stayed open, and her class was one of the hardest hit.
When he came back, that was actually a little bit scarier. It wasn't the same quick, down the rows of people in the same way that he came in. It was almost like he was waiting to see who was alive.
We find time and time again that the shooters come back and shoot people who have already been shot and are playing dead in order to make sure that they are dead. So we would never say not to do something or that you would never do something, but playing dead is not a good primary strategy.
Several people were shot in the head. Said everyone but one person in my classroom was shot. One person was shot, I think, 19 times. He came in 3 times. The entire time you're praying for it to end and to be over, and it doesn't stop. The 3rd time he killed himself in front of our classroom. And then it stopped.
Next, mistakes that cost lives.
They simply went down the rows of kids hiding underneath the tables and shot them.
So if those kids had been trying to get out instead of hiding under the tables, maybe.
There's a chance that some of them may not have died that day.
Jefferson County 911.
Yes, I am a teacher at Columbine High School. There is a student here with a gun. He has shot
This 911 call from the Columbine High School massacre is an important tool for saving lives. Not for what to do, but what not to do.
You've got the kids there.
And I've got every student in this library on the floor. You better stay on the floor.
Is there any way you can lock the doors?
Smoke is coming in from out there, and I'm a little afraid. The gun is right outside the library door, okay?
A teacher at Columbine, she was one of the first ones that encountered the gunman. And she ran into the library that day and told all the kids to get down underneath the desk, hide. That's all she knew.
Terry Nichols is the assistant director of the Alert Training Program at Texas State University. He uses the Columbine 911 call as a tool to teach the public how to deal with a gunman.
Okay, just try and keep the kids in the library calm.
Yeah.
Is there any way you can block the door so no one can get in?
I do not.
Okay.
I guess I can try to go, but he's right outside that door. I'm afraid to go to the door.
That's okay.
What happened at Columbine was most fatalities were in the library. And when the 2 gunmen walked in there, they simply went down the rows of kids hiding underneath the tables and shot them.
So if those kids had been trying to get out instead of hiding under the tables, maybe.
There's a chance that some of them may not have died that day.
Terry knows the scene will be repeated, but he wants the ending to be different. So he and Pete Blair, an expert in active shooter events, came up with a plan, a set of do's and don'ts to survive a mass shooting. It's called Avoid, Deny, and Defend. And this is how it works. Avoid the gunman. Not just by running away, but by knowing the exits.
Guys, cut! Behind me! Stay out of here!
Deny the killer access to your location. Don't hide. Try to block the door.
You want to be in a position where you're not directly in front of the door in case the shooter does fire through the door, but you want to be close to the door so that if the shooter comes through the door, you have a chance to grab that gun, hopefully before they're aware of exactly where you're at in the room, and turn that from being a gunfight where you didn't bring a gun into a wrestling match.
And that's where Defend comes in.
Always be prepared to fight for your life if you have to.
If it ends up in a situation where you're in close proximity to that attacker, your option of running away isn't there, your option of denying access or hiding is not there, the only choice you have left is to fight. It's either that or allow that person to murder you.
According to Pete, in 1 out of 6 mass shootings in the U.S., the gunman is stopped, taken down by his intended victims.
If you get shot, shot doesn't mean that you're dead. It means there's a pretty good chance that they can save you. You have to keep fighting until you can't fight anymore. We do fire drills all the time in schools. We've had no kids killed at a school fire in the last 50 years because we take fire seriously, but we've had a lot of kids killed in school shootings.
This is kind of a sad reality.
It's very sad, but it's still reality.
But training civilians for this new reality is only half the equation. The other half is teaching police triage and emergency medical techniques.
We're stopping what we call stop the killing. We're stopping the bad guy from killing innocent people, but now we have to work on stopping the dying. How do we prevent the people that have been seriously injured from dying while they wait for medical attention?
Terry says all too often, victims bleed out at the scene. So cops need basic medical training.
It's a sign of our times. There are many cases where cops get there and the shooting has stopped for whatever reason. It may be a suicide. It may be they just gave up. It may be they fled. There's no what we call driving force, meaning there's nothing pushing us to go look for the gunman. We're going to stop and start worrying about medical issues and start helping those people, those kids that may be dying. What we're teaching them is lessons learned from Iraq and Afghanistan and the wars. Injuries that we can do something about and save lives on the scene.
Here, at this abandoned middle school in Waco, Texas, police officers are prepping for a mass shooter.
I'll turn around, tap them, and we'll push in.
When we have what we call a driving force, meaning there's shots ringing out, you know, that is our #1 priority. Security is always first, medicine is second.
These officers are about to test what they learned at the firing range inside school hallways and classrooms. In this exercise, officers have to stop 2 gunmen and rescue victims on the scene.
Get down on your knees now! Back towards my voice. Come on, keep coming, keep coming.
We got 2 injured. This room.
Just try to relax, okay, buddy? Somebody shot me. I understand that. Your finger's in my leg! Put it on.
30 intense minutes later, the drill is over. And these cops are better prepared for the day a real gunman is in a school hallway.
It's a huge impact because we're actually saving lives.
When law enforcement finally got inside Norris Hall at Virginia Tech, the halls were eerily quiet. The gunman was dead. So were many of the people he shot. Christina was alive, barely conscious and bleeding from bullet wounds, hoping to be rescued.
And I just waited, and he finally picked me up, and he carried me outside the classroom. And that's when I saw people behind the doors that were dead.
Christina was shot 3 times, twice in the back and once in the foot. 32 people died that day at the hands of the shooter. 17 more were injured. Nearly 7 years after the Virginia Tech massacre, Christina still can't understand why the killer did it. But for her, one thing is clear. If the students had been trained, more might be alive today.
Do you believe, Christina, that if you had had some level of training prior to that day, would that day have gone differently?
Yes, had we had training, I think at least me personally or those around me would have been able to respond differently. 12 people died around me. I'm so lucky to have survived.
Next, why a 911 call kept this woman from entering the U.S.
I was fingerprinted, I was photographed, and I was asked to sign a waiver